I never understood.
Yeah, actually I would someday. We'll have to go for a coffee and see what you think. Even better. All right, well, I appreciate everybody making time to come and meet with us today. I would start by saying I started this process, 6 years ago, with an emphasis on drafting and developing, and for the most part, we have tried to stick with that, and we will continue to stick with that. We will try to draft well, led by Dan Cleary in North America and Nick Cronwall in Europe. I feel they've done an excellent job in developing our young prospects. Certainly not every first-round pick and later round pick happens to play in their first year, so it's important to have patience with them, allow them to develop, and when they're ready to come to play in the NHL. I think we've saw, early 4 years ago with Moritz and Lucas joining our team, and then in particular this year with Marco, Simon, Albert, Jonathan Bergeron, and Elmer Soderblom to some extent playing significant roles on our team. Gives us all a reason for optimism and hope that we're on the right track to building a winning team here. At the start of the year, I was asked and may have stated it, but we felt we could compete for a playoff spot this year. And once again, at the trade deadline, or when we made the coaching change, I was asked that same question, and we felt, even though where we were in the standings, that we could compete for a playoff spot, and ultimately we did compete for a playoff spot. We did not obviously make the playoffs, which is a disappointment for us all. Having said that, at the trade deadline, we did make a trade, and it's been talked about a lot. I sit here today and I feel very comfortable. I can't say I'm happy or I liked it, but I'm very comfortable with the fact that we weren't able to make a trade that involved our top prospects, our first round picks, any of those highly valuable assets. We're prepared to do that, and as shown, we did trade a first round draft pick recently for Alex DeBrincat. I feel very good about that move. We've got an excellent player on our team. We're prepared to use our draft picks. We're prepared to use our prospects. We're prepared to use any player, for that matter, in a trade that makes us better and helps us in our timeline to get better and ultimately be a team that not only can make the playoffs but compete for a Stanley Cup. So I would point out two teams in Montreal and St. Louis who at the trade deadline were sitting outside of a playoff spot. Neither team did anything. They both ended up making the playoffs and are playing very well at this time, led by their best players. At the deadline, we had hoped, as I said, to try and improve our team. There were no good options, and I can't break the confidence of the other general managers around the league and things that we talked about, but there was no deals to bring in anyone of any significance that we really felt would make a difference, not just to make the playoffs this year, but to make us a better team in the long run and to get us ultimately to where we're going to go. So I guess I know it's my responsibility. I'm the general manager of the team. I'm the person who hires the coaches. I'm the person who puts the scouting staffs in place. Ultimately, I agree to the contracts with the agents for these players and whatnot. I'm counting on my staff, on Todd and his staff. I'm counting on our pro and amateur scouting staffs. I'm counting on all of our players, particularly our best players, everyone to do their job and everyone to hold themselves accountable and hold themselves to a high standard. Ultimately, I have to do that with myself, which I believe I do, and we eventually will get to where we want to go. And hopefully, obviously, that's sooner than later. So I want to say to our fan base, I appreciate and have always appreciated the support, whether I was a player here or the general manager of the team, the passion, the knowledge, the history of our fan base. I'm very appreciative of their support and very understanding of the the demand and the want for success here because this fan base expects it. And we're very fortunate as an organization to have a passionate, demanding fan base. So I'll leave it at that and open it up to questions from any and all of you.
Steve, it sounded a lot like you were addressing comments made by Dylan regarding the trade deadline, and he said, guys, we're down. Is that partly what prompted your explanation just now? Or?
Not really, no. I mean, it's been talked about since the trade deadline. Obviously, I've addressed Dylan's comments directly with Dylan, and I will not elaborate on that in this room. If Dylan wants to share what I had to say with him, he's more than welcome to.
And just depending on what free agency looks like this summer, is this franchise prepared to, go north of 10, 11 million for a player that you think could dramatically alter the team?
Absolutely. We'll and we've kind of felt that from all along. We're going to look at any good player, any player that can help us in any role. If there's a player worthy of spending whatever amount on that has an interest in playing in Detroit and fits a need for us, absolutely we would try to do that. As I say, we're in a different stage than we were maybe 5 years ago, and that we have a good young nucleus of players, and if we can add to that with a prominent free agent, we'd certainly entertain that.
Steve, I just wanted to ask, the last couple marches, I'm right over here, hey. The last couple marches, the way it's gone in those months, obviously taken a turn at that time of year. Is there anything that jumps out to you as to what has led to that, and how do you kind of want to address it?
Well, I think we need more depth on our team. We relied, looking at this year in particular, we relied heavily on our power play. We did not score. We didn't get enough offense from say our bottom six group, but we also didn't get enough 5-on-5 scoring from our top six. So how do we address that? Try to get better players. Try to make our players better and demand that our players that are here, that are under contract, that we have high expectations for, they be better. And what does that mean? How do they do that? They work hard in the off-season. They get in better shape. They work at whatever they need to work on. And we've had some players really work at different parts of their game and really show improvement over the last 2 or 3 years. So it's simply having good players, and that's the challenge for us all, is to put together the best team that we can. But I think having more depth in scoring, this team in particular, I think I'd like us to be bigger. Although I shouldn't say bigger, harder, because we are pretty big actually, and I think we can demand that out of our own players, but also bring in some maybe a different mix. And saying all these things, it's difficult to do because every team is looking for players.
Maybe I can piggyback on that too. I can't speak for what has happened in the past, but obviously I lived through a March here, and from the time that I got here, this team was very streaky. And when it goes good for this group, coaches included, I'm not excluding us, when it goes good for us, it's going good, and we can get ahead of things. I talked about that during the year, and we feel real good, but it doesn't take much for us to start taking on water, and when that happens, it takes a long time for us to get out of it. And for me, that's mental fortitude, some resiliency that's built into the group. That's driven by us as a coaching staff to put them through it in practice and put them in stressful situations. You could see that we could sustain the good for a number of games and a number of days, find different ways to win when it was going well. When it didn't go well, we scrambled and struggled to get ourselves breathing again. And it happened over days. It happened within games, within periods, within segments of games. And I could list a number of times, a number of games where that happened and we couldn't recover. So the mental fortitude, the resiliency has to come from us. We have to drive it. And for me, you'll probably hear me talk about game management until you're sick of it today. And that has to get better. We can't just put our skates on and play the game. We have to manage our way through the game, and playoff teams are doing that right now.
And then I know you talked at the end of the year about being happy with how the staff that you brought in and the staff that was still here came together, but do you expect that whole staff back next year, or are there any changes coming?
No, there will be changes that are coming to the staff. Steve, do you want to deal with that, or you want me to?
You're rolling.
Okay, I'm on it. We'll have an announcement going out, but these two are aware that they won't be returning, and Alex Westland as the goaltender coach, LJ Scarpace is one of the video coaches. It might not seem significant in those roles, but those are significant roles. Those are important people in our organization, and those were really good people. I talked about our staff and how they fit in. It's sometimes not a reflection on the job they do, but just something that we needed to do in the coach's room to stir things up. We need better goaltending. And that's not just on Alex Westland, that's on the goaltenders, the head coach, and everybody else that's involved in it. And as far as the video goes, we'll likely look at promoting from within. That hasn't been confirmed yet. But we also want some growth within the organization when people are capable of accepting more. And as we move forward throughout the summer, we'll fill those 2 spots.
Steve, obviously the drafting you've done, especially the higher picks, have been really successful, except for DeBrincat and maybe Kane. Player acquisition from the pro level has not been really good, most people believe. And why is that, and will there be any changes in the pro personnel department?
Well, I think just to address the pro free agency, I think if you look back, it's been a bit of a mixed bag, and I would look back over the years, the off seasons that we've had. A lot of our shorter term signings have been very good. Some, most of them, played 1-2 years and served a purpose, and for various reasons moved on. Looking back, some of them I wouldn't mind having here now. Generally, this is a lot of what happens in free agency when you go with these term contracts. You're getting these players on July 1. You're paying a premium for them, and in the NHL with the salary cap, a player is you can say you like the player, he's played well or hasn't played well, but you have to take it in relation to their cap number, and within our current team, I have higher expectations. I think we can get more out of some of the players that we've signed in free agency. I expect more from them. They were, and I'm still hopeful that we will get more from them. But if you look back over the course of our free agency, the signings, there's been some that have helped us, and it's been most of the shorter term ones. And will we do anything different? With our pro scouting staff, we've got some new faces on it that have come in throughout the last 2 or 3 years, and I think very highly of these young men, and they are kind of a team, and they're starting to understand, learn the league more, understand what we're trying to do, understand the value of the dollar amount. So I think as a pro scouting staff, we're becoming a better team. We just simply have to walk away from some of these contracts. Like on July 1, you get into this whole bidding war, and it's tough, and you look at your lineup and you need this, and if this guy's gone. So I think the approach moving forward is, we talk in 1 minute here about, hey, we're going to go after the big fish, and now we're saying we're going to be more diligent and intend to be. But again, with the free agents that we've signed, the ones that are currently on our team, I expect more out of them, and counting on them to deliver more for us. And it's not just goals and assists; it's all around game.
Steve, what did you like when you brought Todd and Trent over? What did you like? What did you like when you saw them, the rest of the team, the rest of the season? What were the prime developments that you saw from the roster?
Well, obviously we had some really good stretches. It's a new voice, 2 new voices on the staff, and there's not always, but generally you expect the player to get their attention, and they want to put on make a good first impression for the coaching staff. Throughout Todd's coaching career in the NHL, he's worked with some very good teams, very good players, and he's been demanding and he's pushed them. And I think for the most part, our players responded well to that. As we went down the stretch, the challenge for our players is can they sustain it? Can you continue to play hard night in, night out? Play when you're tired on the second of back-to-backs. Play when you're not feeling your best for whatever reason. That's the challenge. That's the challenge Todd faces with our group. That's a challenge our players face. Is can they just continue up with that daily grind and win throughout the course of a season? So I expect going into the off season, Todd has a better idea of the players, what their strengths, what their weaknesses are. Our team, he and I will obviously spend a lot of time. We already have talked a lot about our team and what we can do to improve it. What's coming in potentially through the American Hockey League, what we can potentially do in free agency, who would be a better fit here and there. We'll do a lot of that, and then really work with the players starting from the first day of training camp to get more comfortable in the way we play, whether it be 5-on-5 defensively, offensively, or penalty killing, all that, and figure out not only for the coaching staff how to get the most out of this group, but for our players to play the way the coaches want them to.
Some of those kids in Grand Rapids, what have you thought of them here lately? How important is this playoff run for them too, just the experience?
Well, I think it's extremely important. Any playoff run for these kids, we had a pretty good. Was very helpful for them. You look at Marco, for example. Even actually Elmer and Marco in particular. We had Simon Jonathan there as well playing. It was really, they were counted on in key roles, and these games are hard. The American League as we all know, is a good league, and in particular, you get in these playoff games, it's a real grind, and I thought every one of them really responded well last year, so we're hopeful with the same group of guys, they're in the same situation, a new group of guys, they get value, can go on a long run, but most importantly, learn how hard it is, and how hard you have to play and how committed you have to be, and then it's just at another level, but the same thing in the NHL when eventually they get there.
Steve, it's understandable that you wouldn't want to disclose the conversation you had with Dylan, but still, when he's the captain, the strongest voice in that dressing room, how concerned are you with the morale, which he mentioned took a dip without any really significant move at the trade deadline, and the frustration overall from all the players right now?
Can you be more specific on the frustration from all the players?
Well, if he's the captain, he's probably, in some way speaking for that locker room, dressing room. And in your exit interviews, I guess, with the players, did you sense that there may be some frustration and maybe a little bit of a morale dip from, getting close, but, not doing anything in the trade line and not making the playoffs yet again?
Well, I think, there is frustration, disappointment from a lot of, the guys that have been here, that were here last year as well. That's to be expected. Did I get a lot of feedback or any feedback for that matter, on our morale taking a dip? No, I didn't. And again, I will say, I'm counting on our best players, our leaders, to give us a bit of a morale boost. That's what they're paid for, and that's the expectation from them.
And just another thing is, you've made strides. The last year you were close to the playoffs. This year bringing in Todd, rejuvenated the team, got close again, but weren't good enough to get there. It's been a few years now that you've been in charge. Would you expect to start next year on the hot seat? And if you don't make the playoffs, do you think you deserve to keep your job?
Well, that's not necessarily for me to answer, and I don't do my job worrying about whether I'm on the hot seat or not. That's your job, And to be honest with you, I don't really care what you think. With all due respect, I got to do my job, and I will do my job. And the Illich family, I report to them, and they'll make the decision if or when that comes. So I'm going to continue to do my job and do what I think is right, and always do what's right for the Red Wing organization.
I'll jump in on the the trade deadline, and that's when we were 2 and whatever. This team, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I've been here for 3 months, was good enough to play in the playoffs. You look at some of the teams that made it, we were good enough, the way we were constructed, to make and play in the playoffs. We didn't play well enough. And when it got shitty for us, we went deeper into it instead of pulling ourselves out. That's on us. It doesn't matter who Steve drops in or who shows up and walks into the locker room. If the mentality of the group as a whole is like that, we can bring 3 people in, it doesn't matter. So the group has to change, and then we can augment it with others. We were good enough as a group to make the playoffs, and we didn't. We proved that with the win streaks that we went through. We proved that with the games that we were in. If we don't piss away the points against Tampa Bay before the Four Nation break, we weren't prepared to play that night. We go into Washington, it's 2-1. We pissed that one away. There's 2 more points. We go into Montreal, we have an opportunity to win. We go to St. Louis, it's 1-0 with 30 seconds left. We have a chance to win. There's enough points right there in games that we had control of that we gave away. So it's not about who wasn't here. In my opinion, it's about who is here. And who is here has to do a better job. We were good enough to make it. Now, later on, when we're pushing and whatever, whoever shows up to come and help us, that's great. But we are good enough right now if we perform the way we can.
Steve talked a lot about draft and development, and this year you look at the roster and there's some guys, Austin Watson's, the Dominic Shines of the world. Well, good stories are on this roster late in the year, and you've got some other young guys in Grand Rapids. Where's kind of your line right now on some of those kids, the younger players in Grand Rapids that maybe could have been options, that you had maybe AHL veterans, older guys take their spot, not take their spot, but that had an NHL opportunity before them? Where's your mindset on that right now? Because that's when you talk draft and develop, and there's a process in Grand Rapids, there's a process here. Where does that all fall?
Well, the kids in GR, going back to one other player, Carter Mazer, who we brought up, was that in March? Unfortunately, lasted 1 shift. We do have high hopes for him. We are hopefully that he's back here in the playoffs in GR this year. To sit here today and say whether it's Carter or Axelson and Pellica or whomever it may be that's there right now, Nate or Amadeus Lombardi's, they're progressing. I can't sit here today and say, hey, they're going to be on the team next year. Again, hopefully they have a good playoff run. Hopefully they come in and really perform well in training camp. We think we have a group down there that are going to play. Can I say any of them are going to be out of that group next year? Not definitively. They can, if they finish strong, they have a good off season, and simply force their way into the lineup next year. That'd be great.
With Todd, you said Alex, you're making a change at goalie coach, right? And it's one of those things. For the past couple of years, you've had Steve. You've had multiple 3 goalies in multi-time. Part of that's been injuries and everything like that. How do you look at your handling of kind of goaltending the past couple of years, and beyond just changing the goalie coach? Is there something else that needs to change?
We need the goalies to stop the puck more. We look at Cam's season, and I think he did very well. We're pleased with he met expectations for us. Villy had a rough year with injuries last year and couldn't get on track. And as their season gets rolling along, the coaches, the players were trying to win every night, and we were fortunate to have Alex, who missed time throughout the course of this season with different injuries as well, that never fully probably got on track. But we continue to you look at the best teams in the league. Generally, they have like a real horse that they can ride there in net, on a regular basis. We're not in that position yet. We're hopeful to be there one day, whether that's with our draft picks or to go look out elsewhere for that guy. We will, but overall, our save percentage, I think, as a team save percentage was near the bottom third of the league, 22nd or somewhere rough in there, and we need to improve that. And that's I'm not trying to be sarcastic, but get better goaltending, and whether that's with Peter Mrazek, Cam, and or Alex, or we go out and do something, we'll look to upgrade that position. But ultimately, we made a change with the goaltending coach position, and we'll look to what we're doing collectively as an organization in goal. We've been kind of patching here along the way, signing goaltenders to 1 or 2 year deals while our young prospects develop, and hopefully they do develop into starters in the interim. We'll continue to explore the trade market, free agencies, see if there's somebody that comes along in the interim for that.
And then just to connect my two questions there, with Sebastian, he's been playing down in Grand Rapids. He's probably going to play the playoff game for them tonight. Where is he on that line? Because you just mentioned Alex and
Yep.
the 3 you had this year. Where is he kind of in that, being almost to the year an NHL option for you?
Sebastian goes into his 4th year of pro next year. He does not need waivers to go down in the minors if need be next year. We're looking for him to take another step. I'm not prepared today to put him in the NHL. He had a very good first 2/3 of the season. His play dipped a little bit after the American League All-Star break, and this is a big playoff for him. So potentially, I'm not ruling anything out, but he's going to have to take another step here if we want to count on him to be here in Detroit next year. And the playoffs for him are as important as they are for, maybe more important for anybody. But again, he continues to trend in the right direction. But today, I'm not prepared to say he's going to play in the NHL next year. He's got to do more.
Yeah, Steve, the UFA market seems to get thinner and thinner every year, and you've got quite a bit of cap space this year. Does that make you even a little more inclined to be more aggressive through trade?
I'm certainly open to trade for sure. Again, I think we've moved more younger players into that core. It's not complete yet. Is it perfect yet? No. But as I stated earlier, we are prepared to look at doing something through trade for sure, to try and make us better. And the free agent market's getting thinner and thinner. Why that is, I'm not really sure. We have 32 teams. Going to be even more challenging. We have cap space. A lot of teams have cap space with the cap going up this year, which makes it even more challenging.
And also, I know offer sheets are rare. St. Louis had some success with a couple of players. Is that something that you would look into, or are you opposed to that, or what's your thought process on that?
Well, I think in general, I've never really ever considered one, because usually you never get a player. St. Louis got 2 last year. Turned out to be and 2 guys that are really helping them. Good for the St. Louis Blues. It turned out to be a great move. So I say maybe I take a different position. Mine has always been with the group 2s. One, in order to get the player, you got to pay him so much. You never end up getting the player. 2, you end up screwing up your own internal payroll, and overpaying players, and it just is upsetting to the staff. But it seemed to have worked well for St. Louis. Is it something to consider? Yeah. Do I see us doing it? Probably not. Again, I can't speak for them, but you had a team in a vulnerable position, and they were able to take it, to take a swing at it, and it worked, or take advantage of it, so to speak. With the cap going up this year, I'm not sure how many teams there are really in that really a vulnerable spot. But I got to think you have to have reason to believe you're going to get the player when you do the deal. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to do it. So to answer your question, I'm certainly open to it, but I wouldn't expect a whole lot. And we will look at it.
Hey, Steve, back here. I think a lot of the fan base at the trade deadline wonder about Jake Wallman when you find out he goes to Edmonton and they gave up a first rounder for him, and you guys had to attach a pick to send him. Can you shed a little insight on Wallman, and do you regret that move, I guess, considering you still need defense?
No and no.
No and no?
Yeah.
No and no. Okay.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just not going to elaborate on it.
Why not?
Because I choose not to. There's things I don't want to share with you.
Todd, several players mentioned that this was their first time navigating and adjusting a mid-season coaching change for you. This was your first mid-season coaching change, taking over a team. I guess, what was that experience like for you, and how did you grow, and maybe if your philosophy changed at all as a coach from that?
Yeah, usually I've been the guy not coming in the door, leaving. So it was completely different for me. fly by the seat of our pants. Jans and I were walking out the other day, and we said we came in on the 26th. I think we met here at 10 o'clock at night, and we coached against Toronto the next day. I didn't even know the players' names, half of them. We called them the wrong names. But that wasn't a bad thing, because that just showed that we had a human element to us, that we were human, and coaches are that. So I think that brought us together a little bit that first night. And then from there, we had a plan to approach practices with certain goals. Players were very attentive. They were hungry. They were willing to learn and adapt, which often happens. They do, they're human beings as well. They take on some ownership with good human beings walking out the door, not necessarily walking in. And, so we had their attention. I think things went fairly well from there. Obviously, the swoon in March was something that we weren't happy with. And then the end of the year, we can be a little bit misleading with some of the lineups that we were playing against, and the looseness and the casualness of the group. But I'd like to think that we put a foundation in place right now as far as relationships go, as far as structure and style goes, as far as daily rhythm, what's expected between player, coach, and vice versa. That will give us a head start on next year. But just the simple fact that we were here and got to know the players doesn't guarantee us any success at all. We've got some work to do over the summer, and training camp's training camp. It's going to be that way.
And Steve, from those exit interviews that you discussed, and Todd mentioned about that optimism the players talked about under him and some of the changes, did you get a sense of any of those messages from the players when talking to them before they left for the summer?
I'm going to be honest with you, I was daydreaming. I didn't hear a word Todd just said, so could you repeat your question?
Yeah. Todd had mentioned just the lessons and the players' development under him, and kind of the foundation that he set in going to next season. From the exit interviews, from what you can share, did you get a sense of that recurring message from them at all, or some of the takeaways from those?
Yeah, actually, I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing, but there was a lot of optimism, a lot of enthusiasm from these players, from the vast majority of players, about their relationship, the team's relationship, response to the coaching staff, the way we were doing things, and excited about coming back next year, even for our unrestricted free agents. So there was a lot of positive feelings, a lot of excitement, a lot of hope from the players. So, like I said, again, I'm not sure that's good or bad, but they're excited to come back, and everybody has to understand and look at themselves and do more, and it's up to us to do. Like I said, I'm not just going to put it out there on the players. It starts with me right here. I got to do a better job. I know Todd and I know his staff are going to do well, and we've got to do a good, Chris and his staff, with the draft, and through potentially whatever we can or can't do through free agency. So everybody's got to do their part, but there's a lot of things to feel good about within that locker room, and the players express that to me.
Yeah, Steve, just a quick question on Patrick Kane. He's expressed, obviously, that he's really enjoyed his time here. With your desire maybe to get into the free agent market, have you talked to him about getting something done a little bit quicker than you would normally?
Yeah, we had Kevin, a brief discussion in our meeting that we would preferably try to get some things in place if we can early. If not, we'll figure out something down the road. But there's strong mutual interest on both parties. At least I should speak for myself, and I know Patrick had suggested it, I think, in his time up here with the media as well. So he played well for us and played an important role for us, and he's really a very professional guy in his approach and his attitude, and is a good asset for us.
I mean, I know you never know, but do you feel good about the possibility that he's going to come back? I mean, or better?
I hope so. I'm optimistic.
Yep. And then I wanted to talk a little bit more about the prospects, in particular some guys. Danielson I sort of compared him to the track that Casper was on before, and it didn't quite follow the same. Casper got better as the year going on, but also you moved a bunch of players up, including his line mates a couple of times. And so how did you look at Danielson's season this year?
Actually, similar to Marcos, they didn't put up big numbers. I think adjusting to the American Hockey League, I think he's learned a lot. I think he's improved as a player, and he's an excellent skater. He has good puck skills, responsible player. It's just learning to do it, particularly as a centerman, to do a lot of the little things with and without the puck that really make you effective maybe at the pro level. When you're a good skater in junior, you can or any lower league, you can kind of skate your way through everything, and you need to do more than that. So I think it's been a good year for him. He's worked hard, and he's, early in the season he suffered a pretty significant injury, a facial injury, and to his credit, I don't know that he missed a game, put the face mask on, and away he went, which is very encouraging for us. So overall, I think it's been it's been a positive year, but it's been a grind, and I think sometimes that's a good thing.
And you've been pretty consistent in saying, you're not going to set aside a space for a guy. But you have been able to watch like Wallander and Tomisto for a couple of seasons now. Do you have a better feel on where you think, and not so much as whether they're going to make the team next season, but that they're going to be NHLers, or that they're right on the right track, or how do you view those two guys?
They're different players a little bit. They have different strengths. I would say William, has had a very good year. We're very encouraged by the progress he's made in his all-around play. Ante is actually a very good player. If he can just continue he needs to gain a little bit of foot speed, half a step or something, to play at the NHL level. Both very good players at the American League level. For Ante, it's still, again, working on the pace to keep up, especially as a defender. And William has really come around in all aspects of the game. So I hold out hope for both, that they can play in the NHL. And again, William has probably made big strides in the year, over the course of the season.
Steve, you lightly touched on Alex Lyon earlier. When it comes to the prospect of returning to a three-goalie room, do you see a way that he reasonably comes back?
Well, again, I met with Alex at the end of the season and had a very good discussion with him about a lot of things. I'm not sure we can make it work or if it makes sense, but we both, again, had expressed an interest in bringing him back. Can we make it work? And we haven't had any discussions as far as a contract, so that is the biggest stumbling block. But with around the league, you look at just the number of injuries that goaltenders have, and we've dealt with it here in Detroit as well. I'm never, it's not a plan to carry three goaltenders. It's never been a plan to carry three, although we carry extra forwards and extra D. I don't know what the big deal is in carrying an extra goaltender, but I do have interest. I'm not, again, I've had a brief conversation with Alex's agent about it, and we're going to give it some thought, and it's an option for sure, because we like, Alex, a very good person, and has played at times very well in net for us.
And when it comes to Augustine's timeline, would you have preferred to get him into the system this year, or are you okay with him?
Yeah, no, that's Trey's decision. We had a conversation with him early March, late February maybe, about his whether to stay in school or to turn pro, and at the time we said, look, our advice was, Trey, go just finish the season, focus on school, he had a very good team there at Michigan State, finish your season, and we're more than happy to discuss it at the end of the year, and ultimately it'll be your decision on what you want to do. And I don't think either way he went was going to be a bad decision. Ultimately, he decided that he wanted to return to state for another year, and he's going back to a great program, and I expect him to be a really good team, which is a good situation for him. So I'm totally comfortable with that decision.
Steve, this is a question for both of you, I guess, but are you confident that you have enough of the right leadership in that room now, or is that something you feel like you do need to add this summer? Add to?
I'm not sure, John, over the course of the summer. I would say you cannot have too much leadership. We need more. And we're not going to put it all on Dylan Larkin because he's the C. It's like we need more, and you're asking a lot, but like Mo Sider, Lucas Raymond, these are two of our, maybe our two best young players. We're counting on not just on the ice, but more, and everybody's got to just be their own personality, but more from them. So yeah, I'm counting on more leadership. Dylan Larkin can use more leadership, much like, again, myself as a player. Look at all those guys I played with, just because you wear the C or you don't wear the C doesn't mean you're not a leader on the team.
Yeah, and I agree with Steve. I think that Dylan's obviously the focal point because he is the captain and wears the C and is in front of you more than he even needs to be, because there's a lot of others in there that need to answer for their performances or our performances. And I think that good leaders will look at the group and answer for the whole. And he's a leader, I'm a leader, Dylan's a leader, and everybody else behind them have to have some leadership qualities that we can count on at certain moments. You don't have to be a full-time leader all the time. Sometimes being a follower is a good thing. But there are moments when you have a skill or a talent as an individual or a leader, and it has to come to the forefront. Not because you have an A or a C or anything on your jersey. It's just because you have experience in that moment and you have something to offer. And I think there's more of that in there, whether it's Ben Sherratt, Jeff Petrie this year. I can go through, and I'd rather even not use names, but there are guys there. It's Trent Yanni in the back room. It's Alex Tanguay. He played 1,000 games. They all have leadership skills, and they have to bring them to the forefront when we need them the most. We don't need cheerleaders. We don't need rah-rah guys in the locker room. We need stabilizers when it's time to have stabilizers. We need deflectors, guys that can deal with pressure and deal with the stress of things not going right. We have a lot of leaders when it's going good, but the ones when we're taking on water, we need more. And they're in there. We'll have to get it out of them. Part of that, our job, is to develop them. And I hope there's some young guys in there, if you ask them that question, they would say, yeah, they're working with us on some of those skills, because it gets turned over quickly in this game and you pass it on.
Steve, do you have any concern about the kind of cumulative effect of losing seasons or non-playoff seasons on the overall health of the organization, as far as some of those things becoming self-perpetuating?
I guess I do, yeah. I look at, last season and this season, although we didn't make it, we're fighting every night for a playoff spot. If you, believe it or not, we are trying to win. Our players are trying to win. We need to be better. I'm trying to give you a good answer. I'm not sure I can come up with one because it's a very good question. It takes, you don't want to hear it again. Here I go, and I said I wouldn't do it, but it takes time. And we're trying to draft good young men who are talented young players that eventually become a very good team. I think we're on the right path to that. I look around our locker room, led by Dylan Larkin, led by Alex DeBrincat, and I say those two probably because they're two of our leading scorers who are 28, 29 years of age, who can be here for a long time. Then all the way down through Mo Sider, Lucas Raymond, Marco Kasper now, Albert Johansson, all these young players. We're building the nucleus of a good team with the idea that this team is going to win. So I don't measure success by making the playoffs one year and bowing out the next year. I consider it being continued success, that you're in the playoffs, expected to, and you're trying to win, you're aiming for Stanley Cups. That's what we're trying to do here. So, and to do that, you got to do things, you got to be well run. I know we have world-class top ownership here. It's incumbent upon the hockey ops department, led by me, to do a good job to make sure we don't become a perpetual losing team. And again, you wanted to rebuild 10 years ago after 25 straight years in the playoffs. We're living it now, and it's not a lot of fun. And we're going to stick with it, and eventually this organization will get there, because it starts with the ownership and their demand, and their expectation is to eventually get this team back to winning.
Steve, you've said your timeline before is less in conjunction or competition with teams like Florida, Tampa, Toronto, more in competition with teams like Ottawa, Buffalo, Montreal. When two of those teams pass you, at least this year, at least in the standings, does that increase the urgency to make substantial upgrades this summer?
Yeah, I suppose it does. But when you say, like, make substantial upgrades, like, it's easier said than done. You know, like, yeah, we were going to continue to try to get better, to try to keep pace with these teams, and not only them. There's no guarantee like that Florida and Toronto and Tampa are going anywhere from at the top. So yeah, so it's just imperative that we continue to strive to get better and figure out ways to improve our team and bring better players that make us a better team. So yes.
And the two guys you brought in last summer, Tarasenko and Gustafsson, just how would you evaluate their seasons relative to your expectations when you signed them?
Well, Gustafsson was signed. We weren't able to come to agreement with Shane Gostisbehere on a contract. Ultimately, wanted to bring somebody in who could help out on the power play, a role that he played in New York. And as a filler, we expected Mo to play on one of the power play units, as he did. Early in the season, we're carrying 8 defensemen, and as you saw, like Gus is in and out, Albert's in and out, Oli Mata's in and out of the lineup. Wasn't great for any of them. And then once we went down to 7, and these guys got to play more regularly, I think all of their play picked up. And we've talked about it down the stretch when Eric Gustafsson was out. We felt we missed them. We missed his mobility, his skating. We were able to put Simon in there on the power play a little bit and on that second unit, and he did okay. So again, our power play ended up 4th, similar to what it was same spot as last year, 4th. So overall, started slow, but I think it was difficult to be in and out of the lineup, as it was for Albert as well, and once they got to play. So that was good. And overall, I'm satisfied with what we got. Can he do more? Yeah, and I think I expect more of what Gus did in the second half than the first half. Vlad Tarasenko, expect more production out of him. I think his play was better probably than his production, what we'd expect from him. As a goal scorer, I would say he was frustrated not being able to produce, and I think that affected his attitude, it affected his play, and I think, but overall, you try to reassure him that you're doing a lot of good things out there, and don't let the missed chances or the inability to score affect your play. I'm hopeful and expecting him to give us more than he did this year, because I know he can. I believe he's can give us more than what he showed this year.
Last question, Bob.
Steve, kind of to follow up on Sam's question, when you're trying to get players, convince them to come here, do they have an issue with the fact the team hasn't made the playoffs? Has that ever been a
Not anymore. Like I don't think last year, or we'll find out this year, I guess. Early on, when we're a last place team, and we weren't really a candidate. I can't even think of who the top guys were, but depending on what they were trying to do, it depends. It all comes down to what are they looking for? What's important to them? Are they going to their trying to win a Stanley Cup, or are they looking to put the most money in their pockets as they can? Do they want to play with their buddy? Whatever it comes. So I didn't see that as an issue last year, and I don't anticipate that as an issue this year. And I think you look at the group of our team, and it's for any particular player, it's an enticing opportunity to play alongside some of these guys and really make a difference on a team that's trying to take another step.
And one for Todd. You talked about the games you let get away. How do players learn not to let that happen? How much of that comes from you teaching, and how much do they just have to figure out on their own?
Well, it's our responsibility as coaching staff to drill it into them. I've been watching the playoffs, and actually I should start it this way. I asked you a question. Remember, I asked you, do players play to score, or do they play to win? And you have to score to win. But there are moments when you can't score and you still got to be playing the game, and our group has to get better at that. When you're not about to score, or you have no chance of scoring, and managing the game and that type of stuff. So we have to teach them those moments. I look at the Toronto Maple Leafs now. This is where I was going to go, and I watch Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews be willing to, not quit on a play, but not over pressure it. Lay it into the corner, go down and do the work, eat up another minute, go to the bench and say, okay, we'll get them next time. And I think they're managing the game much better now. They're way more prepared to win. I think Chief's done an outstanding job there of getting those players to learn how to win versus just learn how to score. And we have some players like that right now. We have to get that through to them that we're playing to win. We've got to manage time. We've got to manage situations in the game. We've got to manage risk and reward. You're down by 2, you got to play with a lot more risk. You're up by 2, you got to minimize risk. And our group's still learning all of that. And it's our job to paint that picture for them, get them to understand it. Third period in Toronto, prime example. We could have had our 40th win. We're up 3-1. I know the game doesn't matter one bit to either team, but it did to us. At least I believed it did to us. We wanted to get to 40 wins. You have to have a 4 in front of your number to be even close to the playoffs. We ended up with 39. And we were 20 minutes away, and we mismanaged that period. Forget about the pulled goalie goal with 1.8 seconds left. There were moments in the third period when we didn't manage it well at all. We turned pucks over, and it kept coming back at us. And those are habits we have to break. That's on us to recognize it and make the players aware of it and hold them accountable. And I think if we keep pounding away at that, we won't give away some of those games. When it goes crappy for us, we'll believe in ourselves a little bit more. We'll be more resilient. The bad will deflect off us a little bit more. But you're going to hear us talk a lot about that moving forward, whether it's at training camp or first 10 games, 20 games. It could be the first 50 games. If it's at game 82 next year and we're still talking about it, we haven't learned much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Standing up for something good. I know that it might take some time to believe